you're sitting where the great and well-known party animal, Bert Kreischer.
Yeah, when I sat down, the seat was still warm.
Yeah, oh yeah. It actually never cools off. You've brought up that you've discussed this on your own podcast, and this is obviously a popular, which is alcohol consumption. Now, typically, because you talked about a couple days a week, someone having a couple of drinks. In a typical week, there's about 3 days where he'll have 6 to 8 drinks, and then 3 days where we're talking about usually 12 to 18 drinks, right?
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Is there any side effects with that? Anything happening?
There's a name for it. It's called alcohol use disorder. But a name alone doesn't tell the whole story. Bert, listen, we love you. I've never met you in person, but the world loves you. Like, don't need it. No, but I think so. Alcohol, short list, pro-cancer, neurodegenerative. It's a poison, right? It's a poison. It works to shift people's conscious states because it's a poison. Yeah. Now, it's true there's some genetic variation depending on how much alcohol dehydrogenase, the enzyme that metabolizes alcohol, how much people make. Indeed, some people have a greater tolerance or can handle things. Certain cultures, they make so little of alcohol dehydrogenase, they have one drink or half a drink, and it's like poison. They turn bright red and they feel sick, like they don't feel good. Other cultures, based on genetic variation, they can drink far more. How early did Bert start drinking? How young?
I don't know. I know he was having, he was partying some in high school. In college, he was turned all the way up. So I'll say, to be safe, probably like 17, 18.
Yeah. There is very good evidence, that if a kid starts drinking early, like 14, 15, the probability of them becoming a severe alcoholic is extremely high, independent of their genetics and independent of anything else. So how early people start drinking a lot.
I don't know if he was drinking at that age. Okay. I really don't know.
Let's hope not. Really 2 drinks per week would be the cutoff. I'd love to see Bert go sober, completely sober, and focus on other things. Not because I need to see that for my own, feelings of self-worth and well-being and happiness, but because I think, obviously his neural circuits work incredibly well in the presence of alcohol. They probably work even better. And he does
the thing that I don't even know if you knew this, but you mentioned, like, earlier in the podcast, you mentioned, if somebody drinks like this, you have to do certain things to offset.
Exercise more.
So he exercises actually a lot, more than people would.
On tour.
Even on tour, when he's home, even on tour, trainer with him on the road. He's running, he's lifting, he's active. He's a physically active guy. Yeah. And even the morning after the 10 drinks, active. Yeah,
and people will throw out things like, my grandmother had like a gimlet of vodka or a half a pint of whiskey and she lived to be 100. Yeah. Yeah, there are outliers. Sure. But for most people who are drinking that much and carrying some extra weight, they're going to die young. Now, how young? I don't know. Some people have more vigor and they can go into their 70s and 80s. Yeah. But it's generally not a pretty picture. Yeah. As you get out into your, 60s, 70s, 80s. It's really not. Yeah. And so, I'm not, I didn't even attend the health classes in high school, let alone am I going to try and stand here and be like, I'm the health professor. I actually didn't set out to tell people that alcohol is bad or that cannabis can be good or bad. That's how I feel about it, depending on the person and the context, or that nicotine can be good or bad, depending on how it's brought into the body and the context and the age of the person. I'm just trying to give people the knowledge so they can make decisions for themselves. I always say, do what you want, but know what you're doing. And I think it would be great if he would cut back. Also, he did sober October, so it's obvious that
he can do it.
Did he fall off?
No.
Okay. So it's clear that he could do it. I think that people who drink a lot and are high performers, who then make an active decision for themselves to go sober, do an incredible, their work just flourishes. Yeah. Also, I will say this, I'm not in AA or NA, but the AA and NA community is amazing. Yeah. The AA community, like I know some musicians who are regular in AA, and it's like a performance enhancing drug. The way they have this community, there's something about that filtering of experience through those steps that really does seem to work. And I know AA's got some issues too, right? And they've been accused of a number of different things, but I think they've done far more good than bad.
I would think so.
Yeah. So can you imagine Bert Kreischer in AA, first AA meeting, right?
Yeah.
I would claim to be an alcoholic just so I could attend.
Yeah, it'd be a lot of fun.
Right?
Also, they would have to be like, hey, Bert, other people get to speak too in this meeting. This is not just your personal fucking meeting.
Not 4-hour shares. Yeah. Is he long-winded? I don't know. You're talking to somebody who's, maybe he's an academic at heart. Listen, I'm not going to tell him to quit. He's a grown man. He can make his own decisions, but he is loved by his family and friends.
Of course.
It'd be great to keep him around a long time. And maybe a drink every once in a while. Sure. No big deal. But, it seems like that's a lot of alcohol. That's a lot of alcohol.
Okay.
Well, and this whole Mickey Mantle gene thing that people would joke about.
Yeah.
Like, but
Mickey Mantle died at 56 or something.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, if you were to, I think what we should do is image your brain and Bert's brain.
Okay.
And what you're going to see, but what you don't want to end up with is the Homer Simpson thing, right? With the little brain inside the big skull. Yeah. And that's essentially what alcohol does over time. And then what happens is people end up on repeat of the same 5 or 10 stories and circuits. You ever been around somebody who's been a long time drinker?
Yeah.
They just kind of become the old story over and over again. And your guys' game is all about what's new. Yeah. I will say this. We're talking about tattoos. I'll reveal one.
Okay.
I don't have a lot of script written on me. Some are like birth dates and like names of people that were important. But I have one and it says new stories. And I got that one because I never want to stay stuck in old stories. There is a place for working through old things, good and bad.
Yeah.
But even like good old stories, like how boring is that to just talk to the person who's always talking about how great it was when, or the thing that happened. I'm all about new stories and trying to evolve.
He doesn't even know what he's doing right now.
so new stories. Not nude, new stories.
Yeah, no. And we do not make jokes about nudity here. Listen, I think that's good advice. And I think I don't know. I'm fascinated to see. He's one of my dearest friends.
Dare him.
What's that?
Dare him.
Put
$100K on the table or something.
That's not enough money to him.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
All right.
He does too well.
Well, he might feel about alcohol the way that I feel about podcasting, which is there's no amount of money that you could pay me to quit. And if he says that, there's actually a kind of a test to this, right?
Can I tell you this, though?
Yeah.
He's already said there's no amount of money.
There's no amount of money. Really?
Yeah. He goes, I will never quit drinking.
He loves alcohol.
Yeah, here's the thing. For people hearing this, it might be thinking like, are you talking about like just some fucking booze back? No. What he loves is like the feeling of like, let's go have hey, you just got to my house. Let's go. Want a cocktail? That there's hope that this
dopamine,
that this evening is going to be a good time.
Okay. So among humans, about 8% have some genetic variant that leads to increases in dopamine when they drink alcohol.
It's got to be.
I had an ex-girlfriend like this who, could just drink and have the best time. And the next day is just fine. It's like the Don Draper phenomenon. Remember in that show, like he would just tie one on. He's like staggering back in the office. The next thing you know, he's just all ching.
Yeah.
He's all dialed in. Now, of course, that's a TV show.
Sure.
But the character was representing something that about 8% of people have, which is that they drink alcohol and they don't just sober up quickly. It's exciting to them, the anticipation. It's not just the circumstances. The alcohol really does seem to trigger the dopamine circuit. Whereas for most people, it triggers other circuits primarily, mainly shutting down of the forebrain so that you're kind of not as inhibited as would be the simplest way to put it. You're not adjusting your rule sets. This can be a problem, right? Context is important.
Yeah.
Listen, obviously he's been extremely successful, and now I'm feeling a little uncomfortable. Here we are talking about Bert, like, and what he needs to do or not do.
Believe me.
Well, you're his friend. I think that I never want to come across as like, I expect people to change their behavior. But I think that the new story in life is the interesting one. And I think it's the one that resets kind of, if there is a fountain of youth, I don't know exactly what it is, but I know that one thing that comes close to being a fountain of youth is this idea of building a new story, having a new goal that you're committed to, even if it's really, really hard.
I think
and I'm not trying to go David Goggins on us, right? But look, I mean, people have done harder things, but who knows? Maybe for him, alcohol is the holy grail. And,
maybe. I don't know. It's worth it. I'm glad we had the discussion. I think, first of all, the only thing that he likes more than alcohol is people talking about him. So this is very welcome in his eyes. Don't worry about that.
Bert, I hope to meet you in person someday. We won't have a drink.
Bert and Tom and Bert. One goes topless while the other wears a shirt. Tom tells stories and Bert's the machine. There's not a chance in hell that they'll keep it clean. Here's what we call 2 bears, 1 cave.